Hello everyone, thanks a lot for joining us today for a wonderful conversation with Richard Williams from WMH. We're in the wonderful studio and you can see there are lots of awards behind us. Richard, tell us a little bit more about where we are. What does your company do?
Well, Murray Hamm is 20 years old this year. And 20 years ago we set out really to disrupt the market. We felt that design was a largely underutilised resource for marketers, and that a lot of the stuff that was coming out was reasonably unremarkable. So we set out to do remarkable work in any discipline, but we largely started in packaging. And in fact our original email address was creatingdifference.com, which I think describes us perfectly. Unfortunately it became far too long to put in on emails, so we reduced it. But actually, creating difference is really what we do, and we do it to invent brands, and we do it to reinvent brands. So we work on complete innovation. We work on brands that are well known and well loved, which have started to decline or are frightened of declining, and think that they need to do something remarkable to bring themselves back into people's minds.
That's an exciting job to have, and I've seen your work, it really looks stunning, so it's a pleasure actually now to talk about how you started all this. What was your story and how did you decide to do design in the first place?
Well, start with how I did design in the first place. I was born in the very late 1940s and was really a child of the 50s and 60s, and I remember it kind of very well that, you know, Britain was extremely bleak in the late 1950s. There wasn't very much to rejoice about. There was one or two television channels, and a lot of stuff was, I think, for part of my early life, was still on rationing. And somebody, a relative, used to take National Geographic magazine, and I opened it up one day, and there inside was a picture of a Cadillac Eldorado with the most fantastic, huge wings at the back and wraparound windscreen and a sort of bejewelled logo, and it said underneath it, the best car in the world. And it was adorned by this woman in the most glorious dress, and I thought, well, that is just wonderful. It seemed to me to be full of optimism about the future, and you just could not look at it without wanting to draw it. And I did, and I could draw. I found I could draw, and drawing was this. I wasn't terribly academic at school, and drawing was a skill that I had. And that really was what led to getting into design. I went to art school because that's what you did if you could draw. And then I was very fortunate to get into a college which was then called the London College of Printing, which is now called University of the Arts. And there met some great friends, and my wife actually, and loved it, and really was unstoppable after that. And so that's how I got into design, from just being able to draw, which was fortunate, because if I couldn't have done that, I don't know what I would have done. And then got into a great college.
So do you think education is an essential part of becoming a designer, or it was just your journey and that's how it happened?
Well, I do think that to really be able to be a good designer, I think you need to have an interest in culture. You have to have an interest in what's going on around you. You have to be inquisitive. And I think that's always been a part of my nature too. And I was always brought up to be inquisitive, to challenge things, if that's the prescribed way of doing it, is there another way? And I think that education, I wasn't really encouraged to be investigative or inquisitive at school, apart from in art classes, where I had two very, very good teachers who were actually very well-known artists. And they, I think, influenced me that, you know, there was something going on here. So I think educate people to be inquisitive and to not accept the way things always are is terribly important.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I think curiosity in general for creative people is something that everyone needs to have in them
I think so.
to gain that.
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. So then you graduated from the university. What did you do next?
Well, it was very hard to get a job actually. And I got a job in a product design agency called Industrial Design Unit, which was in Wembley, which, for those of you who don't know England, Wembley is sort of rather, it's well known for its football stadium, but not much else goes on there beyond this industrial estate on which I worked. And I had a very funny boss, a brilliant man called Oliver Hill, who was down in his uppers, really. He'd had a good career, but he was sort of not doing terribly well. And he had built this small product design agency working for a large washing machine company, and they had washing machines and irons, and we did all the packaging. And I was very lucky to get a job because there weren't many jobs out there. And it was a long ride on my Honda 50 motorcycle to get out there. But it was hilarious. I mean, Oliver was a salesman to a T. And he would, you know, he had a secretary who clearly adored him. And he was a big, noisy man. He used to take snuff all the time. And he would bound down the stairs, you know, he would jump from stair to stair. And you knew when Oliver was in the building. And I thought that was a very interesting personality to have. And he would pretend to people on the phone that he knew them terribly well. You know, if somebody phoned up and didn't know who they were, so of course I know who you are. And then you get on the ground and say, Mrs. Craig, who is this person? And he was just a wonderful, ebullient person. And I just think big characters are really important. I was very fortunate when I started in design that it was full of big personalities like Michael Peters and Terence Conran and Rodney Fitch. They were all kind of larger-than-life characters, and I think that's what businesses need. They need somebody to follow, somebody to laugh at, somebody to laugh with. I think that's probably the role that I fill here, actually.
Well, that's great. To have such an inspiration definitely, I think, helps the career. But after you had this experience and worked for a company, how did you decide to start your own? That's a very brave decision for a creative person to make.
Well, I don't know really. You see, I've always thought that I was rather unemployable. I was very surprised that Oliver Hill took me and hired me. And then actually, I had my great sort of hero, we'll probably talk about mentors later on, was Peter Dixon, who saw my work, saw me on the suggestion of somebody else. And I went to see Peter. He was working at Sainsbury's. He was head of Sainsbury's design, and he did wonderful. They did wonderful work. And he had great faith in me, but he took me aside at one stage and said, you know, you've probably done everything you can do here. It might be time to look elsewhere. And I then went to a big agency, one of the big international agencies called Allied International Designers. And I kind of worked out how you did it. And I thought, well, you know, I've done sort of 9-10 years of this, probably more than that. But I think I could do this myself. And I had, at AID, there were some friends I worked with, and we started another agency, which I fell out with rather seriously after about 9 years. But I had met Richard Murray. I had tried to hire Richard Murray, actually, and I'd given him a job, but he didn't show up. And he phoned me the morning he was meant to be joining and said, look, I've probably burnt all my bridges with you, but actually I'm staying where I am because they put me on the board. And I said, well, no, you probably haven't, actually. I admire you for it. And then later on, when I fell out catastrophically with this other business, Richard appeared on the scene. He said, well, why don't we do something? And he was an inspirational, brilliant, funny, impossible man, but great fun. And so we started this in some terrible premises in Long Acre. In fact, we had a creative director who worked with us, Justin Banks. But we couldn't find enough space for 3 of us, so Justin worked down the road. This guy worked in another office in Long Acre. But very soon, in fact, things started to take off, and we then found our own office. And I think the thing about businesses, they need a bit of luck. They need to be good, and they need to know what they stand for, but you also need a bit of luck. And we had a bit of luck a few times. And I describe those as sweet spots in the business, when all the cards fall right, and you progress and you move on to the next bit. I think finding Richard was a great stroke of luck. Justin decided that he wanted to go back and be a freelancer. He's a very funny and lovely man, but he decided to want to be a freelancer. And Garrick joined us. And that was another, what I call sweet spot. Suddenly we had a creative director that Richard could really work with as planner and creative director, and that was just brilliant. And I did the stuff that nobody else wanted to do, the administration stuff and the finding clients, which was really
How did you feel about that, being creative and suddenly switching to administration?
I was extremely happy because, you know, the creative, Garrick is in leagues above me, and I can enjoy the work and love it without having to do it. Yeah, I mean, doing some of the things I did was reasonably painful. Having to find new clients when your existing clients are proving difficult is always rather difficult. But I think we were like, the three of us knew exactly what we were doing, and we loved it. And it was so exciting when it went well, and so dispiriting when it didn't. But that's what life is like.
That's a great story, and I think having three partners is quite difficult. I hear from a lot of companies that having two partners is already a complicated situation. Having three partners must be a challenge. What would you advise to people who are thinking, shall I go on my own? Shall I find a partner? Shall there be 3 or 5 of us? Who knows?
Well, I think the thing is, you can't do it all on your own. You really can't nowadays. And I also think that generally, most partnerships when they start, somebody leaves. You know, if you've got 3 people, two's company, three's a crowd. Not necessarily. I think if you've got specific roles at which each of you excels at, that works fine. But I think you should be prepared, in any partnership, that it might actually go wrong at some stage, and that somebody will drop out, and that was what happened with Justin. But we were very careful. We took out insurance, actually, so that if somebody did leave, the insurance would pay us to buy out their shares, which was quite
a very smart decision.
We were very business-minded, actually, you know, because I had run a big agency, Richard had worked in a big agency, and Garrick had too, so we knew how to do it. But it was more of a challenge than we thought. Because, well, Murray Hamm is very much an acquired taste, you know. We're very kind of Marmite, right? You either love what we do, or you really just can't get along with it. And so you've got to select the right clients to work with, the ones that will love you. But it can be difficult, you know, it can be difficult if clients sort of decide that they're not as brave as you thought they were. And that can always be.
Do you have a good example of a story about a project that went horribly wrong?
I've got many of them.
You don't need to name the client, but like, tell us the story.
I think that there's some early lessons we learned. We were asked, I think we were having a difficult time quite early on, and a client asked us to work on a brand of stuffing, you know, this was stuffing that we use at Christmas to put in turkeys and stuff. And their brief was to make it 10% more modern. And foolishly we took this thing on. And it was a disaster. Number one, because how can you describe what modern is? And 10% isn't really much of a challenge. And we did it, and it was, I mean, it went to market, but it was a horrid piece of work. And I think we thought, never ever again will we do something like that. And it sort of becomes one of those things you log and say, you know, we've done that before and it doesn't work. There have been, you know, other occasions when we've worked with clients and things have gone wrong. But I mean, that's just what happens sometimes. We have also had wonderfully long client relationships where clients just love what you do, and they're the thrilling ones.
What companies do you work with now? What are your favourite ones, maybe, projects?
Well, I think, I don't want to show any favouritism, but I've been terribly proud that of 2 long relationships we've had. One has been with, well, 3 actually. One is with Castrol, which has just gone on for a very long time. We've carried on producing absolutely cracking work for them, and it's taken us from packaging through into online, into new products, and I love that. I love that they have the confidence to work with us, so I love that. We also worked for a very long time with Syngenta, the agrochemicals business, which is quite out of our sort of sphere. But we did a lot of great work with them and really changed the way that they saw marketing, I think, which was thrilling. So those were two relationships, a really long relationship with Carlsberg too, which is thrilling, new products, innovation, challenging work, but work that you look at the end of the day and say, we did a great job there. And I think that will change the way people see that product, or people are going to go and buy that because it's a brilliant idea. And that's what I like.
Great. It's always, I think, when it shows that the company has lots of clients who stay with them for a very long time, I think that's a really good thing to have for a company. And what does everyone here believe in? And did it change from when you started, when you had something in your mind, okay, we will do this, we create the difference, we'll do these amazing projects? Is it still the same, or do you have some sort of new thinking behind everything you do right now?
No, I think the aspiration of the business is the same, is that we will create disruption in whatever market we go into. And we will create stuff that people remember. I mean, it's on our website. You look at some of the stuff we've done for Lamb Weston, I think is thrilling. Lamb Weston is a potato company in the States. And they are, you could say potatoes, how can you do anything with them? But actually they're an incredibly innovative company. Innovation lies right at their heart. And the work that we do, I think, reflects that innovative spirit, and it's very thrilling. So our desire to do stuff which is disruptive and sort of breaks the mould remains exactly the same. We used to have a sort of thought that if we've seen it before, if we produce it and we've seen it before somewhere else, it goes in the bin. It doesn't go out. Everything we do, you shouldn't have seen that before.
I really love the project that you did for Sainsbury's, the packaging.
The Sainsbury's was so organic.
Yeah, so organic. I think that's definitely one of my favourite projects ever, I think, in design.
Well, there's a funny story attached to that too, actually. Because we had one person in the company who really advocated working with us, and the rest of the people, I think, were slightly more concerned about it. And so we showed up with this piece of packaging, which had just a simple background and a plant with dirty roots on it and a little bit of copy on it. And they were really on the brink of kicking us out of the meeting. And in fact, they sent us out so they could talk honestly about the work. But it was in a glass room like this one here with glass walls. And at the time, Justin King, I think, who was then the chairman, walked by and saw it on the screen and just went, and then everybody said, it's wonderful, you've got to do it. And so it went to market. And it paid for itself in a week, it became massive success. But that really was one of those that was extremely difficult to get through. And challenging work is hard to get through. But that's what we're there for. That's what we do it, because it's a challenge. I think it was easy, we probably wouldn't want to do it.
I think that's great to hear that even such a great company with reputation still has challenges when presenting work to the client. I think it gives a lot of hope to the people who are listening to us now and thinking, well, they must have no problems running a company and pitching to all these big clients.
Well, it's slightly easier because we have a very known position, and when people meet us, they know what we stand for. So if they choose to work with us, they know what they're going to get. And they should be we always say, you ought to be on the edge of your chair, you ought to be kind of fearful of this. So our clients are sort of self-selecting, but occasionally you do get people who just sort of lose their nerve halfway through, or they show it to their boss and their boss hates it. That happens sometimes still.
Well, I hope they won't happen as much in the future when everyone is a bit more open to kind of new ideas. In general, I feel like the industry is getting a bit more and more adaptive to crazy ideas, I suppose.
Well,
do you feel that?
Innovation is the only way that business is going to survive. And being seen and heard in this incredibly complex world of marketing where, it's not about just a couple of commercial television channels and a newspaper. The world has changed so dramatically and getting a brand out there, getting a brand talked about, which is after all the very best ways of getting new customers. It's a challenge, and it needs brave, innovative work to make that happen.
Do you feel like the future of branding generally is going into more technological world, or do you feel like the core still stays the same? How do you see the future of creative industry in general?
Well, that's a really big question. I think that I'm very interested in what's going to happen in the future. I think in the long term we are, of course, everybody's saying it's true, we're going to see people's jobs replaced with robotics, which is going to mean that people are going to have more leisure time. And the question will be then, will they have money for leisure? Are we going to have to pay people not to work? If we have to pay people not to work, we're going to have to tax the robots, because the money's going to come from somewhere. So we're going to be looking for much, much more leisure, and much more interesting, exciting and brave leisure. So that's one side of it. What's going to happen on branding is about experiences, I think. The other, I think, is people of sort of my older people, of my sort of age, who are going to want to stay fit and healthy, and they're going to monitor their health, particularly, and there are going to be all sorts of new, I think, brands are going to come up around health. So I think that's a really big area too. How we communicate those brands is anybody's guess, because the media change all the time. I mean, the media that we use at the moment will certainly change within the next 10 years. And that will be interesting to see. But, great ads will always be great ads. Bad ads will never get looked at. That's the same, whatever medium you use. Ads that tell you stories and draw you in and excite you will always work, no matter where you see them.
I agree with that. I feel like there are so many designers and companies who rely on technology too much without actually having that core of great ideas and the basic...
Technology is just a tool.
Yeah.
In the end. But the way we see stuff, of course, has changed. And you only got to sit on the train or the bus and see everybody's on their mobile. What are they looking at?
Yeah.
And how do we get into those machines?
Well, we'll see in the future. Is there anything that you particularly look at, any favourite designers that you follow, blogs that you read every morning you come in?
No, there aren't blogs I read every morning, not on design. I think the one I like most is one by Ben Terrett called Noisy Decent Graphics. Ben is a really interesting, one of the most, I think, interesting younger designers out there. I met him very early on when he was working in his own agency, with some other people, which he left. And he's gone on to work for the government. He did all the government websites, which I think are brilliant. Gov.co.uk, I think it is. And he's now head of design at the Co-op. But he also runs this brilliant site, Noisy Decent Graphics, which is witty, intelligent, engaging. And I do read that, and I think it's terrific.
Is it Noisy Decent?
Noisy Decent Graphics. Okay. And I think it's brilliant.
Great. I'm sure lots of people will be interested to read
Yes. But designers I admire, probably, I go back to... I always, Linda Ralph Knight, who was the editor of Design for many years, asked me to write many years ago my design heroes, articles about my design heroes, and go and meet them and interview them. And I must say, people who stick in my mind are Michael Wolff, who will be sharing a platform at some stage. But Terence Conran, I think you have to say, Conran really, really changed British households. Again, from that rather drab 1950s world, he had a massive effect. I'm a huge admirer of what he's done. I think he's had a big influence.
Great. Are there any places in London you like to visit? Where do you get inspiration from the environment?
Well, the place I'll end up most of all, I think, is the Royal Academy of Arts on Piccadilly. That's sort of it's the place I always end up, because they've always got great exhibitions on. There's one at the moment, there's America After the Fall, which has got some really, really super paintings in. And of course, Tate Modern has Giacometti on it, which I think is really worth seeing. And of course, who can miss the for people of my age, who can miss the V&A's Pink Floyd exhibition, which is terrific. So yes, those are the sort of places I end up really, V&A and the Royal Academy. Great. They're brilliant places to go.
I agree with you, Charis. I think my personal favourite place is Barbican. But
I love the Barbican.
But because especially it's just round the corner from you, so you must go there often.
Well, it's just the most wonderful. If you're a fan of brutalist architecture, which I am, it's terrific. And I love the notion that there's this sort of cultural centre there too. It's brilliant. Yes, I would agree with you. I think it's wonderful.
Fantastic. So I think we're about to end our discussion. So I would like you to maybe advise something to people who are watching us, to creators who are thinking about starting their own agency and they're about to find their partners. What would be your advice to them?
Oh goodness. I think it's a very difficult business to get into. I mean, properly. It's easy to buy a computer and stuff, but I think it's a tough world at the moment. If I may just sidetrack for a little, because I think it might help people understand. I think that clients have changed dramatically. When I first started, you would go and see a client in wherever you were. I used to go around Europe, and they'd tell you what they wanted to do, you'd shake hands on it, and because they liked you, they'd give you the work. And you'd write them and say it's going to cost this much, and they'd say that's fine, and that would be it. That's not the case nowadays. Procurement demands that we write reams and reams of paper for the off chance of winning a job up against 5 or 6 or 8 agencies. And I think that's something you have to prepare yourself for. That it's building a client relationship can be quite difficult because there are so many obstacles in the way. But if you really stand for something that nobody else stands for, then you've got something. If clients can say, I work with them because they think that way, or they believe in that, they have this belief, and that's what we focused on. I think that's absolutely the way to do it. So you've got to be certain that you're going to this because you really you believe in this, and you want to kind of work with clients who share those beliefs. Partners are just, they're largely going to be people we've worked with before. Some relationships work, some relationships don't. I've been immensely fortunate in having Gareth and Richard, who's no longer with us, very sadly, because he died some years ago. But both extremely talented people. I always say, work with people cleverer than yourself. And I would say that I've succeeded in that with those two.
I think that's a brilliant advice to give to someone who is thinking of doing something creative, starting a new business and leaving a safe job to do something crazier than the company they work in. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Richard, for your wonderful answers. It was my personal pleasure to hear your stories. Guys, we will be on Snapchat later, so Richard will show us a little bit around some... I might have wear the spectacles. Well, you can actually. Yeah, well, we can see the agency through the eyes of Richard. So please do join on our Snapchat. Our handle is F London Academy, and we'll show you the clips from the inside. Thanks again, and see you next time. Thank you. Bye. Bye.